And so comes the end of 2025. Hey guys, Caleb here from CDBS Studios, and 2025 is officially over, which means it's 2026 and time to look forward to the brand new movies coming out this year. But before we started to do that, I decided it would be a good idea to start this year off by looking back at 2025, and I'm going to go over all of the movies I watched this last year. I saw a total of 62 movies this year, ranging from feature films, ranging from originals to franchising, new installments in franchises to sequels, and even seeing things like documentaries and short films, all leveling out to a 62 count of films for the course of this year. And I'm going to go through all of them and I'm going to rank them from the worst to the best. Now, we're obviously covering a lot of familiar territory in this video, as I've made a lot of individual reviews for a lot of these movies or talked about them in the various rankings I did this year. So as a result, there's going to be a lot of movies on the list I just don't have anything new to say about. So if there's a movie on this list you want to hear more about, go check out the previous videos on the channel that I've talked about them in if you want my extended thoughts. But without further ado, we're going to jump into the video and I'm going to rank all 62 films I saw this year. So here we go. Starting off the list at number 62, my least favorite film for the entire year is going to go to Hurry Up Tomorrow. And honestly, it's not even a competition. This movie is so bad that I didn't even bother making a video on it because I knew that I'd just be one of the most negative videos I ever made because this movie is so bad. For the first part, if you guys don't know what this movie is, basically it was a movie that was written by The Weeknd about The Weeknd that The Weeknd also starred in. So this movie is just basically The Weeknd making a movie all about himself, and it's just so boring. The first hour of this movie is basically introducing five different plot lines that then don't get developed at all. And then when we get to the back 45 minutes, a whole new plot line is introduced that the movie carries on with. And I really hope that you like The Weeknd's music because they basically play a new Weeknd song every 5 minutes in this thing. And they even have a whole scene in this movie where the movie takes a pause for 20 minutes for Jenna Ortega to basically play the Weeknd songs and tell the audience and the Weeknd the intricacies of the lyrics. Honestly, I gave this movie a 1 out of 10, and I only did that because somehow Jenna Ortega is somehow able to salvage the stuff the Weeknd gave her to work with. And if she wasn't in this movie, it would easily be a 0 out of 10 movie because it's just that awful. This is just a terrible movie. I can't. This is easily the worst movie I saw the entire year, and it's not even a contest. Going up to number 61, I have My Oxford Year. This was another movie that I made a whole video on already, and this movie is just really bad. The first hour of this movie is basically just a feature sequel to Miller's Girl, which is just, it's not a movie I ever wanted to see again. And this movie was so bad, I couldn't even sit through the whole thing because if you remember from my video, halfway through this movie, after the first hour, I could not take it anymore. And I decided to ditch this movie and I paused it to go watch Wall-E to bleach my eyes. And then I came back to watch the second hour and it wasn't that bad for the second hour. But still, the first hour is so bad that it's only like just maybe a slight bit above Hurry Up Tomorrow, if we're being honest here. Sorry. Next up, I have Fountain of Youth. And this was the new Guy Ritchie film that was kind of supposed to be in the same vein as the adventure serials we all know and love. It was an Apple TV movie. And this movie is best described to me as boring, as basically everything good you've seen in Indiana Jones, you've seen in this movie. Like, to be honest, you could probably just skip this movie, just rewatch Indiana Jones, and imagine you got John Krasinski as Indiana Jones, and you probably will be fine skipping this movie. The only reason it's not last is somehow Natalie Portman and John Krasinski, who play these siblings, have some pretty good on-screen chemistry with each other, which is pretty nice, and I did really like them for the most part. Also, I do think they did a good job with Donald Gleason. He's a really decent job as their kind of like business CEO that they are hired by, which I liked. But other than that, basically just rewatch Indiana Jones and imagine John Krasinski as Indiana Jones and Marion as Natalie Portman. Imagine their siblings, and you basically have seen this movie. There's nothing really interesting here, to be honest. Next up, we've got the Smurfs movie that came out this year, and at this point, I just think the Smurfs franchise is just dead because they've never made a good movie with these guys. And this movie is like a weird mix of like everything from the previous Smurfs movies where they go to the real world again, but like it's so weird because they are animated going to the real world, but like they never interact with anything from the real world. It's like a weird backdrop set piece for some reason, which I don't understand why. They have this interesting idea they try to set up where instead of Gargamel being the villain, it's Gargamel's brother. And they try to do a whole arc of, oh, Gargamel's brother is going to betray him, so Gargamel teams up with the Smurfs, but like they don't really do anything interesting with that concept. So it's a really boring movie, to be honest. And also, much like how I said in the DreamWorks ranking, I don't like Home because it feels like a Rihanna advertisement. You're never going to believe what this movie is. Rihanna advertisement. She plays Smurfette, and they play a new Rihanna song every couple minutes. So, you know what? Yeah, Smurfs is just, at this point, this is just a dead franchise. Like, come on, studios, learn. No more Smurf movies. Seriously, you're not making any good movies here. Next up, we've got Snow White, which I ranted about this movie back this summer when I talked about the live action remakes. Like, I don't know what you expect from me from this movie at this point. This is like the third consecutive time I've talked about this movie, and it's bad. Everybody knows it's bad. They basically are trying to remake the Snow White movie, and Disney has this agenda where they're like, we need to fix Snow White when Snow White didn't need to be fixed. And somehow Gal Gadot is the least interesting part of this movie, as she's really bad as the evil queen. And somehow the only salvageable piece of this whole film is Rachel Zegler, Snow White. She somehow manages to salvage the material she was given, which I don't know how that's possible when the entire pre-film controversy surrounded her. But you know what? Snow White is just bad. Next up, we've got War of the Worlds, and War of the Worlds is kind of. I already ranted about this movie in a whole separate video because I doubled it with my Oxford year because I didn't want to make a whole video about my Oxford year or War of the Worlds, so I just grouped them together. And for how bad I said War of the Worlds was in that original video, the one thing I can give it is it's not a total waste of time. War of the Worlds is one of those movies that's so bad that you have a great time watching it. So yes, this movie is bad. The performances are terrible. The product placement is out of whack in this movie. The CGI for the aliens is so bad that I was laughing at them the first time they showed up. I was not threatened at all. And all of that said, it's at least an enjoyable movie. I am not bored watching War of the Worlds as I'm laughing at it so hard with my friends that I can honestly, that this movie was so much more worth my time than any of the five below it. So that's why it gets to rank above it, even though in my video on it, I said it was probably the worst movie of 2025 alongside my Oxford year. After rewatching both of those movies a couple months later, this is now where I said it. Next up, we've got Shuffle of Love. This realistically shouldn't really count for this video, but this was a Descendants short film that they made, which was basically they took a deleted scene from the movie, the fourth movie, and paired it with a music video for some reason and released it as its own standalone short, which was like, why would you do that at all? So like, yes, it's bad. Like, I'm not going to give courtesy points to something like that where they basically just had the deleted scene sitting on the back burner, had this music video they wanted to film, so they said, oh, let's combine the two together, which this was not worth my time. And funnily enough, you can't even find it anymore. I tried to find it for this video. It's not on YouTube. It's not on Disney Plus anymore. Like, Disney basically disavowed this short, which is kind of hilarious to me. Next up, we've got The Electric State, which was another movie that I really didn't know what I wanted to say about it when I made this video, because I didn't even make a video on it. I made a short on it because I did not have much to say about this movie. The one thing I could praise about this movie is that I do really like the visuals, as they spent like $300 million on this thing. Like, you'd expect the CGI of the robots to look good, and it does. But for the most part, everything else is like not good. The story is very weak, and there's not a lot going for the story. The performances, like, this movie's loaded with celebrities, and I get no real performances out of a single one of them, which is really unfortunate when even one of them is Ke Kwan. So of course I'm really mad about that. And other than that, like, there's good visuals. The whole visual style of this movie is really, really cool, and I liked it. But on the same time, if the story was maybe a little stronger, maybe we would have had a more salvageable movie on our hands, I guess. Next up, we've got the last movie I actually reviewed last year, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And I went into extensive length in that video about why I don't like this movie that much. as a movie, it's fine. It's got a really good score. It's got some pretty decent performances from the main characters. The robot, of course, the animatronics look great. You'd expect to because they got them from the Jim Henson shop, so of course they look good. And you've honestly got a pretty good horror movie in here. This, but like nothing really groundbreaking, much like the first movie. But like I held the first movie pretty decently high because it did me well as a FNAF fan. But this movie failed me as a FNAF fan because there's so many things, like I mentioned in the video, how we introduce 5 plot lines in this movie and we decide, oh, we're not gonna resolve any of them. We're just gonna kick them down the road and deal with them when we get to FNAF 3. The the whole story just is out of whack in this movie, and I don't like that. Also, they take Michael Afton, the main hero of the games, and decide, oh, we're just going to turn him into the horror trope of son of the killer in the first movie gets to be the killer in the second one, because we already have Vanessa who's filling the Michael Afton role in the movie. So why do we need to have Michael Afton have his real thing? Yeah, I didn't like FNAF 2 that much, and you can go hear my whole extended thoughts there. Next up, we have Back in Action, which was kind of this Netflix spy movie that honestly reminded me a lot of Spy Kids, weirdly enough. Like this, to be honest, this movie is basically just like if you've seen Spy Kids 1, Spy Kids 4, or Spy Kids 5, you've seen this movie, but better. And this movie is not terrible, though. Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz do a really decent job at holding up the movie and giving a really decent performances that I did actually really enjoy. So that was nice to see, at least. And for the most part, the action when it is happening is pretty decent. But like, if you want to see this movie look good, go watch Spy Kids. And I don't even think Spy Kids is that good, which is kind of saying a lot. And the other most biggest atrocity this movie commits is that at the end of this movie, they do the whole thing where we're going to set up the sequel, but like it's a sequel I'm not interested in seeing at all. So if Back in Action 2 ever comes out, then I don't have high hopes for it at all. And finally, finishing off our bottom 10, we have Tron Ares. And this movie, I'm still very conflicted on. I mentioned this back in my initial review, but I'm conflicted because the visuals and the score are the best in the Tron series, in my opinion. The visuals of the grid and all that in this movie and the score Nine Inch Nails delivered are better than anything that series has done so far, which is kind of the pull of the Tron series in general, as it's like one of those franchises that gets better every time. But on the other hand, the characters, the story are really weak in this movie to where it's not an enjoyable watch. And honestly, I regretted a little bit seeing this in IMAX because I wanted to see it in IMAX because it was a Tron movie, but like in the end, like was not impressed with this movie story, so it kind of felt like a ripoff to me, to be completely honest with you guys. Next up, we've got Fear Street Prom Queen. This was the newest installment in the Fear Street franchise this year, and the thing I loved about the first, like the Fear Street trilogy, is they wrote that trilogy in such a way where each entry is supposed to build on the ongoing mystery, and eventually we get to the third movie where it's all revealed. That was like the whole pull of the movies, where they made all 3 back to back to back, like, and they all released one week after another. So you basically were enticed to watch the whole trilogy, and I liked that idea. This movie basically ditches everything about the original Fear Street trilogy and just makes a generic slasher film, which is like, to be completely honest. I'm not gonna lie that this movie was a total waste of my time. There are decent elements in here, and of course, as a fan of generic slashers like Scream, of course, I had a good time with this movie. But at the same time, I'm definitely not impressed with this movie, and I think it also fails the most for me because Fear Street 3, the Fear Street Part 3, ended with a really cool post-credit scene that set it up a really cool concept for future sequels. But because this movie is a prequel sequel, which means it takes place before the first movie, they can't address any of that because of when they set the movie. So I hope when they make Fear Street 5, they set it after the original trilogy and they can follow up that cliffhanger. But whatever, to be honest. Next up, we've got The Amateur, and this was the new Rami Malek spy thriller movie with Michael Fishburne and that. And this movie, again, was kind of generic and boring for me. Like, this movie is exactly what you expect to get going in. You are expecting a spy thriller, and that's what you're getting. So it didn't really, like, make me angry. It more was just way too generic, so I can't really justify putting it any higher, to be completely honest. Next up, we've got Materialists, and I know that this might be a hot take, but I did not like this movie. Like most A24 films, this movie suffers from a problem where it feels like it's trying to tackle way too much to the point where it's not saying anything about the stuff it's trying to tackle. And this movie is trying to be a rom-com where you've got Dakota Johnson is split between Johnny Storm and Mr. Fantastic. That's a Marvel joke for those of you that don't get that. And honestly, the movie makes her get with Johnny Storm at the end when they have no chemistry. Like, to be honest, I wanted her to get with Pedro more than I did with Chris Evans, which the only reason the two get together is because they're the leads of a rom com. So, yeah, fine movie. Next up, we've got Elio. This was the new Pixar movie that released this year. And this movie, to be honest, is more of what I've come to expect from 2020's Pixar, where this movie so desperately wants to stand alongside 2010's Pixar, but doesn't. And at this point, this movie just recycles plot beats from Bug's Life and Wall-E. So there's nothing interesting here. And this movie also suffered a lot because they changed the whole premise of the story like halfway through. Like, if you didn't remember, they released the initial trailer for this movie and then they changed the story afterwards because they fired the director. And to be honest, the story we were gonna get sounds so much more interesting than the story we did get. And in fact, this movie is so forgettable, I didn't even see it till like 3 months after release because Disney didn't market it. So yeah, Elio was not that great. Next up, we've got the Minecraft movie, which is, again, a movie that's so bad that you have a great time watching it. Like, me and my friends gathering to watch this movie was one of the greatest achievements ever. And it was such a fun ride. We had a great time with the movie. But overall, this movie is just bad. You know it's bad. Like, I want to know who in their right minds thought to take a game that is all about creativity and they turned it into a generic kids movie. Like, I don't know how that happened. And honestly, the only characters that matter to the story is Jack Black as Steve, Jason Momoa, and the kid. Like, to be honest, you can cut the two girls out of this movie and nothing really changes. Like, they're not integral to the story at all. And also, much like Frozen, which I mentioned this in the Disney ranking, I don't think I can ever enjoy Minecraft movie ever again because the good parts of it have been ruined for me, as with all of the people memeing on Jack Black's line deliveries and all the weird moments in this movie. Like, because those were memed to death, I don't think I can enjoy them anymore because of how overdone they were. So the good parts of Minecraft movie aren't good anymore. So what does that leave you with? A generic movie? Yeah. Sorry, guys. Next up, I have Oh What Fun. This was a new Christmassy holiday movie, and I think this movie's biggest crime is that it has such a loaded cast and it's not that good. Like, this movie is stacked with so many good actors, but none of them are really doing great performances. This movie tries to have a really good familial plot line about this mom who feels underappreciated on Christmas, so she runs away and the family tries to find her. But like, that premise, it doesn't play out super well because, like, I like Michelle Pfeiffer. This is one of the few serious movies I've ever seen her in, which is nice to see her in, and I like the other characters in the movie, like I said, but the story is not where it's at in this movie, and I don't think I can love it for that reason. Next up, I have A Merry Little Xmas. This was another holiday rom-com that came out. I thought it was just a little better than Oh What Fun. Like, to be honest, these movies are pretty much the exact same. The story is not strong, but the performances are. So there's kind of the two movies. I don't like, these movies are pretty much the same in my mind, to be completely honest. Next up, we have probably my biggest disappointment of the whole year, Karate Kid Legends. And this movie just, I was so disappointed with this movie because many of you might remember this was my second most anticipated movie of the year. And I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. But this movie is just really bland and boring to me, to be honest. Like, I don't see any reason in this movie why Daniel LaRusso is in this movie at all. Like, to be honest, the reason they bring him in is so contrived and really only feels like nobody would have come and seen it if it was just Jackie Chan. So they had to find some way to get him in the movie. The only really interesting thing in this whole movie that I found interesting is they have this subplot at the beginning where the new kid trains this pizza guy in boxing because he knows kung fu, which I thought could be which was my favorite part of the movie. It was a really fun new premise, but like after a while, they ditched that entire premise, and it's just back to, oh, we have to have the new kid competes in a tournament to go after this kid and we have his girl is the girl that the new kid is in love with. Like, it's basically just generic Karate Kid again, which I don't want, especially after spending 5 seasons with Cobra Kai. That's not what I wanted. So yeah, this movie kind of made me angry, and I can't rate it any higher. Next up, we've got Megan 2.0. And this was another movie that I didn't expect to be great, but it's really low considering what I thought this movie was going to be, because this movie, in all intents and purposes, reminded me a lot of T2 Judgment Day, where where this movie takes our killer from the first movie and turns them into our hero to go up against a new character, to our new threat that is derived from the same code as Megan, which is like, what? For all intents and purposes, the acting performances here are still really good. I do like the characters in the Megan franchise, to be completely honest. The action is pretty cool when it is happening, but like, this movie is also not a horror movie at all. Like, they took a grounded horror movie about a killer doll and turned it into with a big sweeping T2 epic, which I don't know why they did that. So yeah, I think the Megan franchise might be in the toilet after this movie, to be completely honest. I don't know if we're ever going to get back to horror and Megan 3.0 if they ever make that. Next up, we've got The Running Man, and I did make a whole other video on this movie. This movie's most egregious fact is that it's just a generic action movie. Like, it's a Stephen King adaptation, but I can't pick out any aspects of Stephen King in this whole movie. And it's got decent performances. I like the characters in the movie, but like, it's just a generic action flick, and I can't say anything else about it. Next up, we've got Odessa, and this was a movie that I was so impressed by when I first saw it, because like, the visual style of this movie is so good, delivering great music, great performances, and a great world. I love the look of and feel of this movie. But then the story is so weak. Like, the first like 30 minutes of this movie are solid, and I love it. But then Sadie Sink, who plays the main character, makes it to the city, and it just becomes a generic movie after that. And then the ending is really bad. Like, I was so mad because I was really loving this movie for the like most of it, and then the last 30 minutes kicked in, and I didn't like a single thing about that ending. Like, ugh, that made me angry. But yeah, Odessa is a fine movie for the most part, but it definitely promised way more than what I got from the final product. Next up, we've got Jurassic World Rebirth. This was the brand new installment in the Jurassic franchise this summer, and this movie just feels more like most of the Jurassic franchise after what the original was, where it's basically just generic. We put these humans on an island with dinosaurs. They have to survive, and that's the premise. And this movie does a really bad job at setting up its characters. Like, I don't think we learn very much anything about Mahershala Ali, Scarlett Johansson, and anybody else, to the point where I don't care about any of them if they live or die. The only characters I cared about were this boat family they introduced, because they did the work to set them up, so I don't want them to die. But other than that, everybody else could die. I really could care less. And then the movie also tries to build up this D-Rex, and it wants to be a whole big reveal at the end for a final battle. And then he shows up and looks like a Rancor from Star Wars. Like, what? Like, I don't understand this movie, and it was not high on my rating. Next up, I have Death of a Unicorn. This was another new horror movie that starred Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd, about killer unicorns that come after a family after they kill a unicorn. And for the most part, this is, again, a generic slasher flick. You know what you're getting going in. You know who the final two survivors are going to be. Like, this movie is really predictable, and for the most part. But other than that, this movie does have a lot of enjoyable elements. It tries to have this satire outlook on society, which I did really enjoy, and like the upper class, which I liked. But at the end of the day, it was just a generic slasher flick, so I can't really give it too many bonus points. And then next up, we've got Superman, which I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this pick, but I did not think Superman was that great of a movie. I thought it was definitely better than the Zack Snyder Man of Steel. This movie does what it wants to with Superman by giving us a faithful adaptation of the character and doing a lot of great things with Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor, which he was a really great casting. I did not expect to love him as much as I did. But I think the thing I didn't like about this movie is that it feels way too bloated. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest, I kind of wish the Justice Gang was cut from this movie. They During the middle chunk of this movie, we spend a lot of time focusing on them and very little on Superman. And of course, they give us good moments like Mr. Terrific, but like I can't name a single thing that I liked from from Guy Gardner's Green Lantern or from Hawk Girl, to be completely honest. I can't name a single thing I liked about the two of them. So like honestly, just put Mr. Terrific in the movie and delete the others. Like, and it feels like the most egregious that is that this is supposed to be the first movie of the DCU, which I know technically they're carrying over like Peacemaker and they had Creature Commandos and stuff, but like this movie's technically going to be most people's introduction to the DCU and to the DCU, and it feels like they put way too much in there to where it feels like we're not doing anything. Like the way I've described this movie to most of my friends is imagine the first Iron Man movie, but it has Iron Man as the main character, but it also features an already made Avengers where Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye play main roles in Iron Man. Whole different movie. Yeah, this movie's fine for the most part, but it definitely did have some issues with it. And then kind of setting the standard, pretty much going up from here. Pretty much every movie, the rest of this, I really did like. We're going up now. Everything from this point on, I really liked. And we're starting this one off with Jingle Bell Heist. This was, and again, another little Christmassy rom-com starring Olivia Holt as this worker at a retail store who works with this other guy to rob it on Christmas Eve. It's a fun little rom-com. I enjoyed my time with it, but it definitely is not special or anything like that, so it can't really go any higher. Next up, we've got In Your Dreams. This was a new animated movie this year that actually starred Shang-Chi as the dad in this, which I really did like, which I really liked him. And it's a decent little movie about families and what divorce can do to kids. But like, to be completely honest, if you've ever seen the movie Slumberland or Inception, you've seen this movie, but good. Like, I'm not going to pretend this movie isn't good. I liked my time with it, but like, it's just feels like it's retreading Slumberland beat for beat. So if you've seen Slumberland, you've seen this movie. Next up, we've got Regretting You, and this movie has been berated on the internet. I did not hate Regretting You as much as everybody else did. I think it's a fine little story. It's a nice movie. I would be lying if I didn't say that I liked McKenna Grace and Mason Thames more than the adult characters in this movie, but I still liked the adult characters for what it was worth. This was a fine little movie. I enjoyed my time with it, but at the end of the day, again, nothing really special. Next up, we've got Wicked for Good, and I think the thing that suffered from this movie was that I think I kind of ruined it for myself, as in the year gap we've had since the first Wicked movie and this one, I actually saw the stage play for the first time, so I knew all of the big twists going into this movie, so there wasn't really any surprises on my end, and I want to say I love like the production value of this movie. The sets, the costumes, the performances, they're all amazing. But like again, like much like the musical itself, second act is a downgrade from the first act. There's not really any songs in the second one that I latched onto like I did with the first one, which I'm not saying I didn't like any of the songs. I liked a lot of the songs. I just didn't latch onto them in any of the ways like I did with some of the ones in the first one. And then I also have some issues with various other stuff in this movie. Also, it feels like we're getting a little bit too realistic in some of the political views in this movie. I liked Wicked for Good for the most part, but like at the same time, much like the play itself, second act is a downgrade from Act 1. Next up, we've got Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires. This was the most recent DCOM that came out this year, the continuation of the Zombies franchise. Much like the fourth Descendants movie they released last year, this movie's kind of a passing of the torch film where they're like, all right, we can't really afford the people that are now adults that want to move on from Disney Channel, so we're going to pass on the torch to these new kids, and they're going to carry the franchise, which is weird when you're going to get to a franchise called Zombies, and you don't have any more zombies as the main characters, which is like, I don't know how that's possible. But as it stands, this is more of what I've come to expect from Zombies. It's kind of delving into some of the delving into some of the themes of like racism and segregation, which I do like for the most part. There are a lot of really good songs in this fourth Zombies movie, but like at the same time, it's a DCOM movie. Like it's not going to be anything groundbreaking, guys. Like we're lucky if we get any DCOM movies above a 6 out of 10. Like let's be honest here. Next up, we've got The Wrong Paris. This was another little rom-com movie that starred Miranda Cosgrove as this Texas girl who thinks she's going on a game show, trying to trick a game show to get her to Paris, and she ends up in Paris, Texas. And during her time on the show, she actually falls in love with the guy that she doesn't like. Yeah, it's what you expect from the story. I'm not a huge fan of reality shows as a whole, so this movie's premise didn't sound amazing to me, but it is fine for the most part. But I do wish they used the premise a little bit more in a few places, so that's a little annoying. But other than that, this was a fine little rom-com, so it was decent enough. Next up, we've got Captain America: Brave New World. This movie I've talked to death about in multiple videos this year. Main things I'm going to bring up again is I think the marketing screwed this movie over because they promoted Red Hulk instead of Leader, which I feel like they should have flipped that because it makes more sense to me personally. This movie feels like an Incredible Hulk sequel that's 11 years way too late and with the wrong protagonist. And I do wish there was more. It's very obvious that they did a lot of reshoots as the second act is very conjumbled. But for the most part, I still liked most of it. The action is still decent. I do like the primary characters of this movie. And this is also the start of us starting to get hyped for Doomsday. So, of course, this movie was fine, just nothing groundbreaking. And I've talked to death about this movie. So, at this point, go watch my other videos. I don't have anything more to say. Next up, we've got Wake Up Dead Man, the brand new Knives Out movie. And this movie just was such a downgrade for me for the previous two Knives Out movies, as this movie really personally for me feels like the mystery is a little unsolvable personally, where it feels like there's certain aspects of the mystery the movie holds off revealing until way too late, to the point where you cannot solve this movie until Benoit Blanc is standing there monologuing to us about what the answer was. And this movie also was way more like political than the previous two, which I did not like that much. And for the most part, the killer is also pretty obvious too. So like you can figure out what the killer is, but you can't figure out their motive like the previous two. So this was a downgrade from the previous two Knives Out movies for me, but I still thought it was a good movie. So I'm not done with the Knives Out franchise as a whole, but I do think this movie was a downgrade from the previous ones. Next up, Next up, we have The Map That Leads to You. Again, another rom-com. This one starred Madeline Klein. I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's a really fun movie about this girl going on a vacation and finding new meaning in her life, which I really liked. There's some great moments in this movie, but again, traditional rom-com doesn't really do anything special. Can't go any higher. Next up, we've got Lilo and Stitch, which again, movie I ranted all about when I talked about the live action remakes earlier this summer. This movie, to me, really made me angry as a hardcore Lilo and Stitch fan, as this movie ditches all the cool alien stuff from the original just to make a soap opera between Lilo and Nani, which I get why they did that, but it still kind of made me angry. They make Jumba a villain because they don't want to have Captain Gantu in the movie for some reason. I like this movie for the most part. I think it's one of the better live action remakes, but at the same time, it's nothing special, to be completely honest. Next up, we've got Henry Danger, the movie. This was, as a hardcore fan of the original TV show, I had a decent time with this movie. It's what it's trying to be, a revival movie for the Henry Danger fandom. It's got everything you want in it. It doesn't really do anything to make you angry, but it's nothing special or out of the ordinary, so I liked it. It's fine for the most part. Next up, we've got Love Hurts. This was a new rom-com action flick this year starring Ke Kwan and Ariana DeBose. I like the both of them. They're great leads in this movie. It's a good action flick, a good Valentine's Day flick for the family and the couples, but nothing really out of the ordinary here to talk about. Next up, we've got How to Train Your Dragon, which was a surprising remake. As we all know, this movie has no reason to exist. It is a movie that is basically made to promote Epic Universe, nothing more. Like, we all knew that to be real. And this movie as a whole is just like, what the heck are we doing here? This movie is one of the weirdest live action remakes I've seen because it dares to basically not do anything to revitalize the story, because it's just, they took the same script, the same director, the same score, even some of the same actors, and just made How to Train Your Dragon again, which many people might even remember. In my DreamWorks ranking, I thought How to Train Your Dragon was the third best DreamWorks movie, my third favorite DreamWorks movie. So yeah, this movie was fine for the most part, but like at the same time, unlike Disney, they didn't change unnecessary things. Like there's a few things they obviously added to this movie, but I thought they were good. Like they had a whole side plot for Astrid in this movie, which plays into what the sequels did with her. So I'm fine with it, to be honest. But at the same time, like you can probably just watch the original and be completely fine with this movie. Like, let's be real here, guys. Next up, we've got Avatar Fire and Ash, and this is a fine little movie that has a lot of enjoyable elements. You a lot of enjoyable elements. I do really like the main characters of the Avatar franchise. For the most part, they are decent characters, and they're decent characters. I like the story. The world of Pandora is great. The visuals of this movie are still the best of the Avatar franchise. Like, I'm not going to lie, I do think these are still a step up. Again, story, this is probably the weakest Avatar story. I don't think they used the Ash people as much as they could have, but looking at it, it looks like they're set to return in Avatar 4 and 5, so maybe they'll get to do more with them. And I did really like some of the ideas that set up in this movie. Spider, actually, I really liked him. I didn't like him a lot in Way of Water, but I think he was done better here, so I liked that. Also, I really liked Korvich in this movie. He was a lot better here for me, too, because I kind of haven't liked him up until this point. And this movie's fine, but a thing that also I think drags this movie down in my mind is this movie is a 3-hour movie, and it never once justifies why that is the case. Like, to be honest, watching this movie, you probably could have cut the first hour of this film out. Nothing changes. And I wish they did that because this movie was so long. Like, it did not need to be 3 hours, James Cameron. Like, let's be real here. Like, I think it's a case of he was a little too happy with his work and he didn't want to cut a single scene. Like, let's be honest. This movie did not need to be 3 hours. Next up, we kind of have one of the weirdest things that I kind of have to include on this list. It's this Gabriel Iglesias Legend of Fluffy comedy special, which I watched. Technically counts for this video. I don't really know what to say about it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was fine. But, like, yeah, I don't know where to put this. Let's be honest, guys. Like, this technically, much like Shuffle of Love, this probably shouldn't count for the sake of this video, but technically it does. So this is its placement. Next up, we've got Zootopia 2, one of Disney's only good theatrical live-action sequels. I forgot Winnie the Pooh existed when I made that video, but found that out when I made my Disney ranking. That Zootopia 2 does exactly what you want from a sequel. It expands the lore and world in a believable way. All of its characters feel the exact same as the original, and their new arc feels understandable. And for the most part, this is a good sequel. It's not a great movie like the first. It's not a great movie. I do think it's an improvement on the original Zootopia, but it's not going any higher. Like, it's fine movie. The story's still a little basic for the most part, but I did like my time with it for the most part. Next up, we have probably one of my biggest disappointments. We have One Battle After Another. Look, guys, I understand that you all loved this movie, and I went in expecting to love it too. I just couldn't get into it the way everyone else did. I will admit there are some great moments in this movie. The performances are phenomenal, some of the best I've seen in any movie ever. And they have some great cinematography in this movie. The score is good. The costume, everything about this movie is good, except the story for me. The story is the only thing that I think is really off about this movie because its pacing is so off where it feels like the movie takes forever for anything to actually happen. And then the stuff that does happen doesn't feel great. Like, I will admit, there is good stuff in this movie. That final car chase in this movie is in contention for one of my favorite scenes in any movie this year. But the rest of the movie story is kind of weak. And so I can't put this movie any higher than 21. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I really tried to love this movie. I'm sorry. Next up, we got Black Bag. This was a spy thriller film that starred Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. And it's a very different kind of spy movie where it's a spy thriller of these spies trying to figure out the mole of an organization, and they think it's each other. It's a really fun movie, and it's also directed by the guy that did the the Oceans franchise movies. So had a lot of fun with that, as I really like that director. So it's Steven Sondheim. So he's a great director. This movie's really great for him. Really loved it. I just think that, again, the pacing's a little off in this movie, so I can't really put it too high, but I do think it's still a great movie. Next up, we've got The Accountant 2, and I'm not the hugest fan of the original Accountant. But my favorite part of the original Accountant was John Bernthal, so I was so happy that this movie promoted him to second lead, and he gets to be a part of the whole story, which I liked a lot better, and he's a great addition to Ben Affleck, and they're not working alone anymore, so that's great. I like the mystery of this movie feels a little bit more fun and a little more satisfying to figure out than the original one's mystery. And for the most part, it's an improvement on the original, but at the same time, story's not super amazing, so it's not going any higher. Next up, we've got Mickey 17. And this was a really fun little movie that had a lot of enjoyable stuff. I love my main thing I love about it is that Robert Pattinson does a great job in this movie playing both Mickey 17 and Mickey 16. So it's really fun seeing him play these very two different characters and walking out of the theater at the very end. I remember so much. I liked both 16 and 17 for very different reasons, which is hard to pull off. And we're going to see that in another movie we're going to talk about later on this list. I like most of the characters for the most part. The story's fine, but the story does definitely drag in the back half where it feels like not much, that we're just doing the same thing as the first half again. And the villains really are not great. Like Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette are not great as the villains in this movie. They're very one note to the point where you're constantly asking, like, why? So, yeah, can't really put them any higher. Next up, we've got John Candy, I Like Me. And I'm not a huge documentary person. So let it be known that I almost cried in the first 5 minutes of this thing. And John Candy's one of those actors I've always been so fascinated with. And this movie is the first step in me finally realizing I got to see this dude's whole filmography because this movie made me love this actor I already have a great emotional attachment to the point where I almost cried like 15 different times in this thing. This is a really well-made documentary. But the reason it can't go any higher is I'm not a huge documentary person. So I'm not going to rewatch this movie as much as the next 16 movies on this list. So even though I would love to put this movie higher, and it probably critically is higher than the next like 7 on this list, but like I'm going to rewatch the next 7 movies more than this movie, so I can't put it any higher. Next up, we've got Black Phone 2. This was another horror movie this year, sequeling the original Black Phone. This movie struggles as it has the problem of the original Black Phone doesn't naturally lend itself to a sequel, so they're kind of pulling on threads that don't really exist for a sequel. So it's a fine movie. I do really like the characters and the new characters introduced. There's a lot of enjoyable elements in Black Phone 2. If that story was maybe just a little bit stronger, and then maybe we could have enjoyed more, but like maybe Black Phone 3 will be better. Who knows? Next up, we've got Neja 2. And again, this is a movie that I went in trying to love, you guys. I just can't see what you all see in this movie. Like, I'll be honest, the last hour of this movie locks in and delivers some of the best moments in any animated movie I've ever seen. Not only just because of the visual style, but the fight sequences, the emotional heart, and everything in that last hour is so good. But to get to that hour, you have to sit through another hour and a half of generic kids movie plot, unfunny childish humor, and to the point where I don't know if it's worth it. So I'm sorry, guys. I want to see the brilliant movie that you all see, but I just can't, and I'm sorry. But it is a decent movie. I will admit that. Next up, we've got Weapons. This was another huge surprise for me as I went in knowing nothing about this movie except for the premise because it's the tagline and the plot summary on HBO Max, and Letterbox. So I knew the premise going in, and it's a great movie, layering in this style of we follow each character's perspective of the events of the story, and it's so great where we end each segment with a cliffhanger that gets you pulled in more into the story. I love the entire cast in this movie. They're so phenomenal. The only things I don't love about this movie, which is preventing me from putting it any higher, is I think the ending is a little too comedic for my taste. For a movie that's been nothing but serious drama for the whole runtime, the comedic bits at the end feel very off-putting to me personally. And I kind of wish they introduced the villain a little bit earlier because it kind of feels like we don't learn a lot about her by the ending, which I kind of wanted to. But if they do end up making a prequel movie or a sequel, then sure, maybe we'll get to know more, and then this movie will raise higher once I know more about the villain. But yeah. Next up, we've got Dogman. This was a fun little animated movie earlier this year that's based on the Captain Underpants Dogman books, which I like those books, so this movie was fun. It's a nice little movie, got a lot to enjoy about it, but at the same time, it's nothing special. It's not going any higher. Next up, we've got the Life List. And this was, many of you might remember when I talked about my Oxford year in that original video, I mentioned a movie that Sophia Carson also starred in this year that was in my top 10. This is that movie. It's not in the top 10 anymore, obviously, as there's other movies I like better than it now since I made that video. But Lifeless is a really fun little rom-com movie that is less about the rom-com and more about the familial drama, which I liked a lot. It gave the movie something to crutch itself on when the love story was not very great. And I love Sophia Carson in this movie. There's a lot of great enjoyable moments. It's a great little rom-com. The only reason it's not going any higher is the first 30 minutes of this movie before the journey gets really started were really boring, and I almost shut the movie off, and then the journey started and it got better and became one of my favorite movies of the year for a while there. So yeah, this movie almost tried my patience, but it was worth it in the end. So it gets to rank here. Next up, just shy of the top 10, we have The Bad Guys 2. Surprisingly, Bad Guys 2 manages to be better than the original Bad Guys, as this movie is still what you expected from the first Bad Guys, a fun little heist movie featuring these animals and this whole heart about what makes a good guy versus a bad guy. That's all there. And this movie I like a lot more because it kind of plays more into the natural kind of traditional sequel drama you can get out of this kind of premise where you've got the bad guys trying to go good. Society doesn't really accept them going good, so they go bad again. And the ending of this movie also, I feel like, sets this movie up for a more natural direction for Bad Guys 3 than Bad Guys did for Bad Guys 2. So, yeah, that's good. Bringing us into the top 10, we started off with, surprisingly, K-pop Demon Hunters. Somehow, this movie is still in my top 10 of the year after almost 5 months. I don't know how that's still up here. For everything about this movie is, I still don't think this movie is phenomenal the way everybody else does. It's still a solid 8 out of 10 for me. As, again, the characters are great. The songs are so catchy. I cannot get them off my playlist or out of my head. And there's a lot of solid elements in K-pop Demon Hunters. I just think the villains are so underdeveloped, and they're basically just the cookie cutter definition of what you can get out of a villain. And I also have started to kind of think that the story, especially in the second act, kind of drags, so I can't love the movie on rewatches. But for the most part, I still think this is a good movie. It's still an 8 out of 10. I just don't think it's the solid 10 out of 10 masterpiece everybody else thinks it is. So I'm sorry, guys, but top 10 is not bad for this movie, to be honest. Next up, we've got Thunderbolts. Still in my top 10. I loved Thunderbolts. It was a solid return to form for Marvel, taking the things I've loved about their previous movies and putting them in a great story. It makes me care about a group of characters I did not care about before this movie, minus Yelena and Bucky. This movie feels like it's actually about something, saying something about depression, mental health, grief, family. So it feels like an MCU movie that's actually has something it wants to say, while not being an MCU movie that's trying to prioritize message over story. So that's why I loved Thunderbolt still. It's not going any higher because I do think the third act kind of devolves back into the traditional Marvel final battle, but it's fine for the most part. Next up, we've got Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And yes, I still love this movie so much, it's still going to be in the top 10. Now You See Me, like I mentioned in my initial review, is a pleasure franchise for me. I don't go to the Now You See Me films expecting the next greatest thing to ever exist. So this movie delivered what I wanted. A fun little heist movie about magicians. I loved the new characters. They were a great addition to the story. And I also loved the overall style this third installment in the Now You See Me franchise goes for. And it does actually make me want a Now You See Me 4, which I didn't want a Now You See Me 4 after going into Now You See Me 3. So congratulations. At number 7, I have Novocaine. This was a really fun movie starring Jack Quaid, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite actors, in this really fun action movie where Jack Quaid plays a character called Kane, who can't feel pain. So the whole movie delves into this really fun action premise where he can't feel any pain, so the action sequences can be really fun, which I loved. The central romance was a lot of fun, and while this movie may not be the strongest when it comes to story, This movie makes up for it in great laughs, great action, and is an enjoyable movie, which I've mentioned before. I prefer movies I enjoy my time with over movies that I'm bored out of my mind for the entire runtime. So I loved Novocaine, and I'm gonna say it straight up. Jack Quaid gives my third favorite performance of the entire year, besides two actors we're gonna talk about in later films on this list. So that's how you know this movie was great. Next up, we've got Companion. And this is a movie that I would not dare spoil under any circumstance because I went into this movie knowing absolutely nothing. And it made it so much better. So I would not dare spoil what this movie is about. Just know that it's a really fun movie that is a great thriller that I loved every second of. And Jack Quaid is once again a main character, and he gives one of the standout performances in this movie for me. So I would not dare spoil this movie under any circumstances. If you have HBO Max, go watch it right now because it is definitely one of the best movies this year, and I will stand by that fact. At number 5 is going to go to Fantastic Four First Steps. My most anticipated movie of the year is still one of my favorites. After waiting almost a decade to get a good Fantastic Four movie, we finally got one from Marvel, and they nailed every aspect of the movie. The casting, the story, the characters, everything in this movie worked for me, and it's a great return to the form for the MCU and makes you excited for Avengers Doomsday. So I love Fantastic Four First Steps. It is easily number 5 favorite for the year. Sorry, guys, the sun was starting to get in my eyes there. At number 4, I might be the only person in the whole world that has this in their top 5 of 2025. I have The Gorge. Now, I loved this movie. This movie was directed by the guy that did actually coincidentally do Black Phone 2, Doctor Strange. So this movie was done by a director I did have a lot of respect for, and it's a really fun movie that blends 3 genres together in such a good way. The first act of this movie is a rom-com where we got Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy falling in love and being separated by this gorge, and it's a really fun little rom-com. Then in the second act, we fall into this gorge, and it becomes a mystery body thriller horror. As we try to survive this gorge, we start to learn about it, and it's such a great story. I loved this movie from beginning to end, and even in the ending has a really fun fake death in it that I actually fell for the first time I watched this. I might be the only person who puts this as high as it is, but I thought this was a perfect 10 out of 10 movie, and I will fight that. I will fight that fact. At number 3, taking home bronze medal for the year of 2025 is going to go to F1. The more and more I've thought about this movie over the course since I saw it, I genuinely can't pick out a single thing in this movie that I dislike. There is so much to love here, from the central performances to the actual racing scenes. They did a great job shooting the movie. The guy that directed this also did Top Gun Maverick, so he has a flair for making the racing sequences look so good, like the flight sequences do in that movie. There is so much to love here in the form of F1, and F1 is just such a solid movie to the point where many people, including myself, have now gotten interested in F1 racing because of this movie's existence. So congratulations, Brad Pitt and the rest of the team on this movie. At number 2, taking home silver medal for the year is going to go to Frankenstein. This is the first of the 2 movies this year that I genuinely feel that 10 out of 10 doesn't accurately capture my feelings on it, because this movie gets a 12 out of 10. Everything about this movie worked for me and then some. Dealing great performances, sets, costumes, score, pacing, story, everything you want out of a top tier movie and then some was this movie for me. And I mentioned previously, Jack Quaid and Novocaine was my third favorite performance of the year. Oscar Isaac as Frankenstein in this movie is my number 2. He was phenomenal in this movie, paired greatly with Jacob Flaherty playing his monster, and you have the recipe to make not only one of the best movies this year, but one of my favorite maybe of all time. This was a solid movie. Sorry guys, the sunlight is deciding not to be my friend, so I had to go shut my blinds. Anyway, coming in at number 1, the gold medal winner for the year of 2025 is going to go to Sinners. Even after 61 other movies this year, there is not a single other movie that I thought was better than Sinners. Because, man, this movie, again, is everything you want out of a top tier movie and then some. This is another 12 out of 10 bordering on 13 movie. This is phenomenal from beginning to end. As originally when I first saw it, I wasn't a huge fan of the fact that I wasn't a huge fan about the fact that we spend like 40 minutes introducing all the characters before we get into the cool vampire stuff. But like, it just made me realize that on repeat viewings that entire 40-minute opening is just getting you to care about the characters so that when the vampire stuff starts happening, you love every character. Every performance in this movie is phenomenal. The sets are great. And taking home some other trophies this year, Michael Jordan in this movie playing both his brothers Smoke and Stack is my first favorite performance of the entire year, above Oscar Isaac and Jack Quaid, which I mentioned previously. And the I Lie scene in this movie is my favorite of any scene in any 2025 film. It is gorgeous, from the acting to the music to the camera work. That is easily my favorite scene of the year. This movie was everything I wanted out of 2025 movies and then some. It is easily my pick for the best movie of 2025. So there you guys have it. My ranking of all 62 films that I saw this year in 2025. And now that that's over, we can now go ahead and look forward to the 2026 year as we start to get involved as I start to talk about many of the movies that are going to release this next year. So I want to know if you guys want to take on the challenge, rank every single film that you saw in 2025. Feel free to do so in the comments. And if you think that's a little too difficult, which I don't blame you, just give me what your top 10 would be. And if you want, you can go ahead and also do the bottom 10. But without further ado, thank you guys all very much for watching. And I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.